going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today I'm seeking to answer the question of what does, in my opinion, actually make the Airis Effects Nebula Advanced Overdrive the most advanced overdrive that's been released to date. So as a quick sample for you, this is the Kraken on its red channel. Yeah, so that's the sound that I dialed in a little bit earlier. So we're going to go through the whole, the NAO, so I'm going to call it from now on. We're going to go through that, every control on it together real quick. Alright, so I've moved over to the green channel of the Kraken now. So from top to bottom, left to right, we're going to start with the muscle control. So the NAO is interesting in that it's meant to be hooked up. To get the most out of it, you have to hook it up via the 4-cable method, which means that it's going into both the front of the amp and into the return of your an actual amplifier, so your FX loop. Well, it's going through the FX loop, it goes through the FX return and the FX send. But in this case, there's also a way to use it with preamp pedals, which is what you're looking at here. Airis Effects has a video on how to actually do that, so you can go check that out if you need to know how to hook it up to a preamp pedal. But hooking it up to a regular guitar amp is pretty simple, as it's listed right here where everything needs to go. But anyway, when you do hook it up via the 4-cable method, you can hook it up straight to the amp and use it as a regular overdrive if you want, but you're missing out on just a few things. So if you were to hook it up like a regular overdrive, you would just plug your guitar into here and plug this into the front of the amp, and it still functions as a great overdrive. But in that case, you miss out on these two controls right here, muscle and master. So what do they do? Let's start with master because that's the easiest to explain. It's just a master volume control. I didn't have it on, so it didn't do anything. Now, for any of you that have an actual tube amp or any actual loud amp, let me tell you that is extremely, extremely powerful. So I don't see them talking about it very much, but this overdrive acts as an attenuator. So if you plug into most freaking amps nowadays, there's like 0, and then you like tap the volume on it and it just blasts volume at you. They tend to be very loud, the higher wattage amps. With this, if I have the NAO engaged, I can just dial it in like from nothing, and it's a smooth volume curve. Obviously, because I'm using a preamp pedal and not a full amp, this preamp pedal is going into my helix like usual. You're not really getting that full effect, but this does work as a fully functional attenuator in terms of just volume. It works as a master volume control, a very nice master volume control. Nice meaning it doesn't jump from nothing to super loud. It's a smooth curve. Alright, but outside of that, the other thing that you get access to by hooking it up with every connection is the muscle control. So the muscle control, once again, I'm not the most technical person in the world. I'm going to explain this to you in terms of how I think about it when I'm dialing in a guitar tone. So let's mess with it first of all. So with it dialed out, you see how thin my tone gets? Do you hear that bass response when I turn it off? The way I hear that, it's more like, it's less that you're hearing bass like in my attack or anything. Like, it's not that it's a meaty attack. I hear this almost like just bass, just a layer of bass frequency sitting on top of my guitar tone. Now with the muscle control slightly dialed out, that kind of goes away. But as you dial it in, you just basically add balls to your sound. A tight low end. You can definitely get it to be too much for the type of stuff that I go for, but I mean, that's just another option that you have. If maybe, I don't know, maybe that's applicable to like a Doom type of situation or something. I don't play that style, but it's available to you. And there are some very, very bright amps and preamps where I've had it that high and it still sounds great to me. It just sounds like it, once again, just added balls to it. But yeah, those are two very powerful controls that you get by having it fully connected to a FX loop or just a preamp pedal in this case. But alright, outside of that, everything else on this pedal, if you want to just hook in your guitar and then plug it to the input of an amp, you can use everything else up here. So let's go through that. Just like a regular overdrive with volume control. So this is different from a master volume control. This master volume right now is controlling the actual loudness. The loudness that you hear. Whereas this volume control controls the loudness of the signal that's being sent to the preamp, which tightens it up and makes it more aggressive sounding. So I have gain on 0. So that's how a lot of folks use overdrives nowadays. They'll just leave everything else like kind of where it is and just use it as a clean volume boost into their amp. So of course you can do that. Then we have a tone control, which works like any other tone control on a regular amp, on an overdrive, I'm sorry. So essentially, when you turn it to the right, you start to get more treble and pick attack and lose some bass. And turning it the other way, you get the opposite effect. More bass, less treble, less pick attack. So the trick is to find a sweet spot for you, or a spot that you like. And again, I think that this works very well with the muscle control because, of course, I like part of what happens when this is full. But it starts to get nasally. But I feel like that gives me the opportunity to dial in some more muscle. But I typically run it very high, but not full. And then to the interesting part for me. So on a lot of overdrives, I tend to not like what happens when I stack gain, which is essentially running pedal gain into my amp or preamp or whatever. I found that the NAO's gain structure is one that appeals to me quite a bit. I feel like it's still very tight and it just blends very well. So let's look at that. And it doesn't take much. asking me like what this stuff sounds like without the Zool, so I mean, yeah, you get noise. This is a very high gain situation, and overdrives tend to be the noisiest part of your signal. So yes, especially with the gain dialed in, you get noise. But if you dial the gain out, that's greatly reduced. But again, that is normal for any overdrive pedal. What I would say is not necessarily normal is how nice that the gain stacks in this case. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's talk about these switches that we have here. So byte is adjusting the top end, basically how much top end byte that you have. So that's normal. Let's go down to sharp. And then warm, sharp is adding some top end, warm seems to be rounding out that top end some. So again, just high level thoughts on that for me. I would probably use warm for like lead stuff. But at the same time, that's just also one more tool that you have to adjust this overdrive to whatever you're playing through. So far, I'm counting 2 ways that you can adjust the top end, and we haven't even gotten over here yet, but that's coming as well. All right, so I'll leave that on sharp for now. And then we have clip, which adjusts the clipping mode. This basically, I look at this as it's adjusting like the voicing of the gain. And for me, I find this easiest to really hear with just running this pedal direct. So now this is the NAO direct into a cab sim. You won't hear much of any change with the clipping mode if the gain is on 0. Because nothing's clipping. So let's start at the top and go from the bottom. Let's increase the gain here on symmetrical. Down to op amp. See, that's a pretty significant change. On op amp, what I feel like I'm hearing and feeling is that first note, like it has a lot of attack. Like that first note comes in very strong. The first part of the note comes in very strong. And then asymmetrical. Symmetrical seems to be the least extreme of the 3, and then op amp and asymmetrical seem to be fairly comparable, but it's like just slight variations on each other to my ears. I find myself sticking to op amp mode most of the time. But again, that's just one more thing that you can just use to adjust it to what you want to feel and hear out of your guitar sound. And then next we have tight, which adjusts the low end. So this is normal. Over to tight. And then fat, which will add some low end. And that's the thing, when I'm dialing in tones, I like to just associate certain things with different sounds. To me, tight, okay, on tight mode, yeah, this is now my gent overdrive. Fat, maybe I want to play some like death metal. Definitely dial in a better sound for that. But anyway, yeah, it's just, once again, something that you have options with. And again, you have to remember that you can adjust the muscle control and all that to mess with this. But even if you're not using it with the 4-cable method, you still have all these ways to adjust your high end, your low end, and all that. Speaking of which, over here we have what I guess is the most unique part of this overdrive, is that you have a full parametric EQ over here. So voice, from top to bottom, you have voice, width, and then plus or minus. So voice is letting you, pushing it to the right means that you're adjusting the higher end of frequency. So like top end. This is, I think of all of this as like a mid-range, but like switching it to the right means that you start to adjust the high mid-range, whereas sweeping it to the left has you adjusting the low mid-range. With, alright, so let me try to explain this in simple terms. Alright, so I'm playing a 7-string with bare knuckle pickups in it. Bare knuckle war pigs. They're meant to have, you know, more low end than anything else. Maybe I want to cut a little bit of that low end before I go into anything. So what I would do is kind of play with the voice control to see, well, first of all, I want to identify, I want to kind of try and hear what I'm changing. So I'm going to turn the plus knob all the way to the right. I'm going to turn the width to the right a little bit too, just to kind of help me hear what's happening. So now as I adjust the voice control, I'm basically moving that curve from left to right. So say there's maybe something in this frequency range that I want to cut. Let's make that a little, the width, this curve a little thinner. And now instead of adding this, let's cut. So yeah, this just lets me adjust the low mids in this case. Let's take a different approach and try and add some high mids for the gents. So yeah, that's the Airis effects now. Just to recap, you have this muscle control that can let you dial in or out some low end, which is a very tight low end to my ears. You have the master control, which can function as a whole freaking master volume control for your amp that is more than likely better than the master volume control that's already on your amp. Or if you don't have a master volume control, now you do. You have regular volume, tone, and gain from any other overdrive, but I think that the gain on here is very nice. You have a byte knob to control the top end, a byte switch to control some top end, a clip switch to adjust the voicing and the feel of the gain, and a tight switch to adjust the feel and response of the low end. And then you have a whole parametric EQ over here. So yes, this is by far the overdrive that has the most stuff packed into it that I've come across. It is a very advanced overdrive. So I'm going to switch over to gain 2. I'm going to turn this off real quick, and we're just going to dial in some stuff that way, and then we'll get out of here. So yeah, there we go. I like this overdrive a lot. I think it's safe to say that this is my favorite overdrive, largely because I like to have options, and this very much gives them to you. Thank you guys for checking out this video. I really appreciate it. Hope you all have a good day.